How many mama bears out there are like, I just want my daughter to understand what you're saying, Dr. Mindy. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. Okay, I wrote a book for you. It's called Eat Like a Girl. And I literally thought of the 20 and 30-year-old in every single moment that I was writing that book. I wanted that book to be something that mothers would give their daughters and be like, I can't tell you, but Dr. Mindy can. They'll hear it from me, right? Like we always hear it from another mother. They don't hear it from you. Just give them the book. So, but in the book, I map out these chemicals. So these obesogens are actually being poured into our foods. And what they do, and I know some of you are going to be like, well, caffeine? Oh my God. Caffeine's an obesogen? Well, Starbucks coffee is. I know, sorry. That's a chemical-laden caffeine. This is why when you drink coffee, you drink a more organic amount. But look at this. Look at all of these heavy metals are in all of our soils. Glyphosate, if you're not eating organic, you're getting obesogens. BHT and BHA are on here. Vani Hari was on my podcast, and she told me, we were talking about like, how do you navigate an ingredient label? And she's like, just look for natural flavors. Most of these are hidden in natural flavors. What? It says natural. How can they do that to us? In fact, Vani and I had a fun conversation because I was like, hey, I want to know what it was like when you like went into the corporations and you were like going after the man and you're like, why are you putting this in our food? I'm like, let's go do that together. That sounds fun. And she was like, I'm a mom now. I got kids. I'm a little more mellow. I'm like, I'm not. I'm a menopausal woman who's fucking fired up. Come on, Vani, let's go. So I'm trying to pull Vani out of her cozy home so that we can go storm into some of these big corporations. But these are the chemicals. These are the ones, and they're everywhere. You're putting them on your skin. You're eating them. I just got a good dose of them in my hotel room. Forgot to bring my favorite soap. Lathered some obesogens all over me. They're everywhere. And what they do is that they turn your stem cells, and they tell your stem cells to make fat cells. So these are two very interesting studies, the white mice on the end there. When a fetus is exposed to these obesogens in the womb, it takes a stem cell that is supposed to make bone, and it reprograms it and tells it to make fat. And so now, we've got a childhood obesity epidemic. And we are shaming the parents. We are putting them on Ozempic, which is horrible, and we are not acknowledging that our food system has done this to our children. I had an interesting conversation with Jessie and Chopsu, who is the glucose goddess. Also not a shit, sorry. Feel like I'm like going against the team. Anybody know the glucose goddess? Really cool conversation. You can listen to it on my podcast. And we got talking about these obesogens, and she told me, she's from Europe, and she told me that actually they're concerned in Britain because kids aren't growing to the same height that they used to grow. Like their height is smaller and smaller as the generations are coming on. That's because the mom was exposed to obesogens that were allowed in her food that took her child's stem cell, that this baby's born with all these stem cells that are going to help grow a healthy body, and the stem cells that were supposed to make bone so that they can grow to be the height of their generational family is now being put towards fat. And then this guy, this agouti mouse, anybody heard about the agouti mouse? So the agouti mouse over here, well, this was a study done years ago, and I don't know why we don't talk about this. It's like, oh yeah, that study came and went. But this study, what ended up happening is that the mouse, these are twin mice, they all had a gene for obesity, and the mouse on the left, they were fed, there's another point one, they were fed exactly the same amount of food, they were given exactly the same amount of exercise, so their calorie in, calorie out was exactly the same. The only difference is the mouse, the bigger mouse with the yellow hair, was fed plastic. And the minute that they put plastic into that mouse's body, that mouse became obese. Now, before you all go throw your water bottles out, which you probably should, the really cool thing is when they stopped giving the plastic, the mouse started to lose weight. That's how miraculous your body is. So, We have this toxic soup we are swimming in that is causing this obesity problem. What's the fastest way out? And it literally is fasting. And I didn't realize this again when I went and when I wrote the book. I had no idea how it was going to play out for millions and millions of women. I knew how it played out on my social media. I knew how it played out in my practice. So I knew it was a tried and true method. But I did not see how dysregulated and out of balance women were until I watched women finally be able to lose weight. So people who are like, I finally was able to lose weight with fasting, raise your hand. Keep your hand up. The reason, okay, go ahead and put it down. The reason is because you took a break from all of these. And you gave your body a moment to repair itself. That is the most fundamental reason why Fast Like a Girl worked for you. So this was the most common study, or I think it's the best study that was ever put out. It's not even really a study, it's a meta-analysis where the New England Journal of Medicine, which by the way is like the Bible for medical doctors, they looked at all of the studies done on fasting, and they basically decided that intermittent fasting was great for about 5 things. And that they were willing to say. So obesity, Alzheimer's and dementia, cardiovascular events, thank you, social media, wound repair or surgery repair, and gut changes. And they said, we looked at the studies, and this is what we have found. So when you are going into a fasted state, you are in a healing state. So, what happens for those of you that are like, well, I ate breakfast this morning, I'm feeling really guilty. Anybody feel, who hasn't eaten breakfast this morning? Okay, yeah, my people. And I'm not, no judgment if you ate breakfast. And then if it was like a sweet roll in the lobby, like maybe tomorrow you'll do it different because you didn't know. Again, it's not judgment. But you have 2 metabolisms. How many people are like, I have a slow metabolism? Oh, come on. How many people have at one point in their life said, I have a slow metabolism? I can't believe, I heard so many women say that. You don't have a slow metabolism. You just weren't taught how to use your fat burner metabolism. You have 2 metabolisms. You have a metabolism that clicks in when you eat. We call this the sugar burner system. And you have a metabolism that kicks in when you fast. And the name of the metabolic game is to go in and out of these 2 states. And when you learn to metabolically switch in and out, your metabolic system is healed. So a big question that so many podcast interviewers asked me last year was, who is fasting for? And I'm like, it's for everyone. And then they love that quote, and they want, click it, make it a reel, and then all the naysayers want to come and say, well, it didn't work for me. Well, guess what? Sleeping, it works for everyone. If you didn't know that. But not everyone can sleep. So this metabolic switch is truly your door in to fixing your metabolism and fixing your body's ability to regulate the glucose that comes in. So I scoured the research, and I found over a 10-year period that there were 6 different length fasts. I'm not going to go into all of them. I wrote them in extensively in the book. If you want to know what chapter was the hardest to write, and which I wrote 5 times and rewrote and rewrote and rewrote, and it was The Art of Fasting. And I feel like I have nailed that chapter. So if you get confused on this, go read chapter 2. It's called The Art of Fasting. And when we take a break from food for 13 hours, we start to see inflammation come down. We start to see growth hormone go up. Growth hormone's the hormone that slows aging down. It's the precursor hormone for all other hormones in our body. When we go to 17 hours, our intelligent body, you know what it does? It's like, oh my God, no food, no nutrients. I better be a better version of myself. And so it repairs everything inside the cell. And you know what else it does? It's like, hey, you are a bad cell. You're about to become a cancer cell. You are speeding up the aging process. You need to go, and it creates something called apoptosis, which is it will remove that cell and kill it and get it out of your system. At 24 hours, your incredible body goes, oh my God, you know what? We haven't any food or glucose coming in. We better get the microbiome repaired and ready for food, because when food comes in, we need to be our best. And so it takes all that bad bacteria and it gets it out of your system. It takes a leaky gut and it fixes the leaky gut. At 24-hour fast. At 36 hours, your brilliant body, you know what it does? It's like, okay, this is not good. We have not had food for a long time. There's no nutrients, there's no glucose. But guess what? I stored some food somewhere years ago. I'm going to go find that and burn it. So those of you who are like, I tried fasting, Dr. Mindy, it's not working, try more 36-hour fasts, because it's enough time for your body to go and find the food that it didn't know it was there. 48-hour fast, your whole dopamine system reboots itself so that you have motivation to go find food. So you get new dopamine receptor sites, and the whole system, from you being like saturated with all the obesogens and all the social media, all of a sudden, like without food for 48 hours, the whole system, dopamine system reboots itself. And you will be the happiest. Just try it. Anybody happier after 2 days of fasting? I can tell the fasting people, because they're the ones that they just log in and they're like, they would walk into my office and they're just like, yeah, it's working. It's working. Because at 48 hours, we change the whole dopamine system. And at 72 hours, you reboot the whole immune system. The best thing we could have done at COVID is put everybody on a 3-day water fast. Because we would have rebooted the whole immune system and the metabolic system, and we would have made everybody stronger. But instead, we gave people Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, so then this leaves, like, why do women need to fast differently? And there's 2 things that I want to tell you on this, and this is where the fire hose part comes in. I'm going to go really fast through this because I want you to get every little bit of information I possibly can so that you can make good decisions for yourself. Men work in a 24-hour cycle. So they get testosterone every 15 to 20 minutes. You notice that? One of my favorite interviews last year was Stephen Bartlett on Diary of the CEO. Anybody listen to that interview? If you haven't, go to YouTube, because it was a really fun. He had me there for 3 hours, by the way. You should never sit a menopausal woman down and ask her questions for 3 hours. At the end of it, I was like, oh my God, give me some estrogen. But one of the things that we talked about was how in men, you guys get pulses of testosterone every 15 minutes. And I said to him, you know what we say about you, right? And he's like, no. I'm like, if we don't like your opinion, we'll just come back, 20 minutes, 25 minutes later, and your opinion may be different, because it depends on when testosterone came in, when it might affect your answer. And testosterone is made in the testes, and it goes up into the brain and converts to estrogen. Women, we are not like that. We work off a monthly cycle. And we have the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and it pulses in at different times during the month. And one of the things that I have noticed throughout my whole experience is how many women don't understand their menstrual cycle. And we go into our doctor's office and we are not asked even where we are in our cycle, and it matters, and I'm going to show you why. Sorry. Okay, so here are the fundamental rules. There's 10 of them. First one is cortisol is your absolute enemy. It is the bully on the hormonal play yard. So those of you who are trying to balance your hormones, you need to balance insulin first. If you are not insulin sensitive, these hormones will be off. This is PCOS. This is menopause. This is menopausal belly weight. This is infertility. If you're struggling with fertility, you need to make sure that you are insulin sensitive. That statistics, so it's so hard right now for couples to get pregnant. And then we look at 8.6% of Americans metabolically healthy. We have to fix insulin. And now the next thing we've got to think about is cortisol. As long as we stay in a dysregulated world, all of our efforts to balance insulin become more difficult. But then at the top of the hierarchy is our beautiful queen, oxytocin. This is why it matters that you smile. It matters that you hug. It matters that you go find that bestie you didn't have time for. It matters that you pet your dog. It matters that you laugh. That matters for all of these hormones. So please, please don't be too busy to put those aside. Rule number 2, you have to fast to your monthly hormonal cycle. So if you are a cycling woman, the easiest way, I'm going to go through this really fast, and I'm going to break each one down, but the easiest way to look at this is when hormones go high, you're going to pick up eat like a girl. When hormones go low, you're going to pick up fast like a girl. So we fast more when hormones are low. Now, in the middle phase here, you can fast a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But in general, when hormones are high, fasts go low. When hormones are low, fasts go high. Now, that's for the cycling woman. Let me just make sure. Okay. Don't worry, menopausal women. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, I'm so tired of her always talking about the cycling women. I have some in here for you. Don't worry, I am one. Okay, so first 10 days of your period, day 1 of your period is when you bleed and you have to use feminine care products. If you spot, that's not day 1. Day 1 is the day you bleed. And for the next 10 days, what's going to happen is your estrogen is going to build. And I have a new phrase I love about estrogen, and I call it, she brings her girl gang with her. When those first 10 days, as estrogen is building, you know what estrogen stimulates? She stimulates dopamine and serotonin and acetylcholine and glutamate and oxytocin and BDNF. She brings all those neurotransmitters with her. She's like her girl gang. And so those first 10 days, maybe the first 2 you don't feel great, but for the next 8 until you go into ovulation, you should feel like a rock star because you are neurochemically locked and loaded. This is the time that you want to fast more. Estrogen, if she could talk to you, she'd be like, can you make yourself insulin sensitive, please? I need you to bring insulin down. The other thing estrogen would say to you is like, I don't really care about cortisol, whatever. If you want to stay up all night, go ahead and stay up all night. Don't really care. If you want to push hard with your workouts, you want to push hard with your fast, go for it. I don't freaking care. I care about one thing, and that's that you're insulin sensitive. That's all I care about. So conditions like PCOS, trouble regulating health, your weight, all of infertility, all of that. I'm definitely not out of time. So it says 0 there, but I'm going to keep going. So, but this is what you want to do when you are in those first 10 days. Okay. Oh my gosh. There we go. Okay. The middle part called ovulation, I called it manifestation phase. By the way, I gave all these parts of the cycle fun names. I have a dear friend who's a hormonal expert, and she said, we should give each hormonal phase nail polish names. And I was like, that's a really good idea, except for I'm not like a girly girl. Like I don't put a lot of nail polish on, so I'm not like familiar with my favorite nail polish names. So I wanted to give them names of what is going on. So power phase means you can power up on your health activities. Those are the moments. Manifestation means you're and if you want to manifest a baby, that's what your hormonal superpowers are in that moment. Or you can manifest a new job, you could get a promotion, you can resolve a conflict because you are hormonally locked and loaded. So during ovulation, between day 11 and day 15, estrogen hits her peak. Estrogen gives you access to both sides of your brain, so you can be creative and you can be logical at the same time. Estrogen also makes you a really good verbal processor, which is why we like to talk. And estrogen allows you to stay focused, which is why when we go into menopause, we're like, bing, 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 and we can't stay focused. So, but I said throughout all of COVID, I was like, if we just put every ovulating woman in the room, we would solve this problem right now. Let's just we're half the planet. When we all the ovulating ones, let's just put it in one room and we say, okay, how do we get out of this? We would have the answer because we have so many hormones. We also, by the way, have a lot of testosterone. It's the only time of our cycle that testosterone comes in. And testosterone is more than libido, it's motivation and drive. Okay, then we come out of ovulation and all our hormones crash again. which is why you can be the front half of your cycle for the cycling women. You can be like skipping along and you're like, yeah, I feel good. Feel good, it's great. Oh my God, I had the best workout of my life. Yeah, because you just got a good dose of testosterone. I'm so motivated, I'm just killing it. And then day 16 hits and you're like, I don't feel good. Because all your hormones came crashing down for a 5-day period. And this is where we can do more HIIT training. We can do more fasting again. If you're bloated, you want to focus on you opening up your detox pathways. There's so much to say about this, but I'm going to, for the sake of time, move through. And then this is the outlier. This is the nurture phase. It's the week before our period, and it's when progesterone comes in. So where estrogen and testosterone are like, yeah, I came up with this idea. I don't know if they'll cut it out to Eat Like a Girl, but I really liked it. Estrogen, if you were at a party, estrogen would be like the one that's like, turn the music up. This is so fun. There's my friend, this person and that person and that person. I love this. And testosterone would be the one that's like, this better not stop. This is so fun. We can't let this, we have to leave this place at noon? Can't we just party all night long? That's what testosterone would say. And maybe testosterone would find somebody to make out with in the corner as well. But progesterone is like, oh my God, it's too noisy. Everybody's trying to talk to me. I don't really like any of the conversations on here. Nobody's here. Honey, can we go? So when you are like different at different parts of your month, you're supposed to be, because you have these hormones coming in and out. So rule number 3 is that you need to also fast to your hormonal cycle, or to your life cycle of hormones. So here we go, menopausal and perimenopausal women. Where are the perimenopausal women in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, all the perimenopausal women stand up. I know okay, I want everybody to look around the room. I know, it's really embarrassing. Come on, just stand up. Because these are the women that need hugs. These are the women that are like they will do so well with a smile. Please help give them more oxytocin. That's why I wanted you to stand. Okay, go ahead and sit down. So in perimenopause, we have to often fast or eat according to our symptoms, because sometimes we have a period every 2 weeks, sometimes we have every 65 days, sometimes it's 75, like what the hell is going on? So when we can't think straight, we fast more. When we're anxious and we can't sit on the couch and rest, we eat more. And it doesn't mean you just sit with a box of pizza and a tub of ice cream, but you're going to go into food. We also know that when you have low progesterone, you're anxious, you're reactive, you're irritable. Do you know what the number one symptom of menopause is? And it's not hot flashes. It's the one that everybody wants to talk about, but it's not. It's irritability. And that's because we are losing progesterone. And with progesterone, she only has one gang. She has a bestie. She doesn't have a gang. Her bestie is GABA. And so wherever progesterone comes, she brings GABA with her. And she's like, everybody just calm down. Everybody calm down. Can we just relax? And when you go into perimenopause, she goes away and nobody's telling your brain to calm down. So food is more of your resource. Yoga. Stop overscheduling yourself. Like rest more and recover more. That is your tool. Postmenopause. Tell me, I'm like a year and a half without a cycle. So I'm like a new postmenopausal woman. I'm like, this is awesome. This is really good, right? How come nobody told me? I've sat and taught this to so many people, and all the postmenopausal women just sit there and they smile. And I'm like, you didn't tell me how good it gets. So when we fast at postmenopausal, what I found is that a lot of women who went through perimenopause and they couldn't lose weight, and they still have hot flashes, and they're still struggling to sleep, and they've been years without a cycle, the first thing to do is to start practicing fasting. And if you practice fasting over and over and over again, you will lose that menopausal belly weight. My favorite review out of the over 4,000 reviews on Amazon for Fast Like a Girl, and thank you to those of you who have left reviews, but one of my favorite was an 80-year-old woman who said, I finally lost my menopausal belly weight. She lost 30 pounds with this. So I wrote a book for you, by the way, menopausal women. I wrote a book for you, postmenopausal woman. It's called The Menopause Reset, and there's 5 lifestyle changes you're supposed to make after 40. So even for peri and post, you need to make these changes. And if you don't make these lifestyle changes, you will spend a good portion of your perimenopause and postmenopausal years trying to lather creams on you and take troches and slap patches and divorcing your spouse and getting rid of the friends that you think have harmed you. Do the 5 lifestyle changes before you get divorced, okay? Like literally, like one of the statistics is like 70% of divorces that happen over 40 are initiated by women. Men, there should be more men in this room, or if they're in a heterosexual relationship, to witness that. Okay, the other thing I wanted, before I move off postmenopause, I recently found a study about 2 weeks ago that when our hormones dip, it triggers a part of the brain that initiates suicidal thoughts. So I just want to, this is really important to say this because 45 to 55 is the most common time for a woman to commit suicide. It is not the 16-year-old that's killing herself. It's the fucking 47-year-old who wasn't given the answer in her doctor's office and wasn't taught how her body is and wasn't given lifestyle tools. And all of a sudden it got too tough and this part of her brain got triggered and she was out. So if you've had suicidal thoughts, I want you to know it's normal. It doesn't mean that you have to live with them. Do the 5 lifestyle changes. Get the menopause reset. Okay, number 4 is when we look at this fasting lifestyle. So remember, you're a sugar burner. When you eat food, you're burning energy from the food. When you don't eat food, you are burning energy from fat. So that diet that you have been on forever trying to burn fat, it's never going to work. It's never going to have a lasting result. You've got to be able to pair it to a fasted window. But what I'm finding, and this is a real pet peeve right now, because people are trying to take down fasting because nobody's getting wealthy off of people not eating. The food industry is struggling and big pharma is struggling. So just know that the studies and the media blitzes are going to keep coming. So when we look, one of the criticisms is, oh, it eats muscle. Oh, it eats the microbiome. I'm like, oh God, I'll get like calls from my team. They're like, we're getting a lot of DMs on like, supposedly fasting eats muscle. I'm like, you want me to answer this again? Like, let me explain this. So fasting is a healing state that you put yourself in and your body repairs and it heals. It's like a meditation retreat for the metabolic system. And then when you eat, that first meal matters. So if you want to regrow the microbiome, eat the 3 Ps. I listed them in Appendix B. If you didn't look at Appendix B, go look at Appendix B. And it's polyphenol, probiotic, and prebiotic foods. It's fiber. It's salads. It's vegetables. Make sure that first meal has that. And if you're worried about losing muscle, make sure that you're putting in more protein in that first meal. That first meal back over here really, really matters. That's why I put a whole chapter in Fast Like a Girl. It's one of the things that was kind of controversial. It's like, do we really need a whole chapter on how to break your fast? Yes, we do. And Eat Like a Girl, do we really need a whole bunch of recipes on how to break your fast? Yes, we do. And so I've provided that for you. Okay, rule number 4, you've got to keep your detox pathways open. So this is really important. This is the one you're going to want to take because this is life-saving. So every organ has this ability to get rid of toxins and get them out of the system. And so your liver is one of the hardest working organs. And so if its detox pathway is called the common bile duct, and then out of the common bile duct, it goes into the stomach, the small intestine, it goes into the small intestine, then into the large intestine. So you need to be having bowel movements every day. If you're not detoxing. You need to be sweating every day because your skin is going to get toxins out. And you need to be checking your pathways every day. And the pathways that I check every day are right above the supraclavicular area. Is it puffy or is it pitty? I check my inguinal area. Is it puffy? Is it pitty? Under the arm, is it puffy or is it pitty? It is an arm pit. not an arm puff. So if you keep it where the lymph pathways get congested, toxins are not getting out of you. I'm now adding menstrual blood for those of you that are menstruating as a way of releasing the toxins out of you. And for women, when they fast, their body goes into this amplified healing state. So we got to open these pathways up. We have to pay attention to all of the pathways and make sure that we're taking good care of them. So there's a couple really cool hacks. I just want to throw this one in here. When I was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, we got a beautiful message from a woman because we got talking about the pit and the puff. I mean, we went down lots of pathways. 3 hours again. I'm a little upset about that. But what happened was that a woman listened to the podcast and sent us a message and said after she heard the pit and puff story, she went and looked in the mirror and she had a really big puff. And so she went to her doctor. Turned out she had a rare form of lymph cancer and they caught it early enough to be able to treat it. And we literally saved her life. So check your own pit every morning. Every time I take a shower, I'm checking it. I'm checking this. And if it's puffy, I put a whole chapter and a bunch of information on opening detox pathways. I have a bunch of videos on opening detox pathways. So make sure you're opening it and go teach another woman. Okay, number 5 is that women need more minerals when they fast and more amino acids. So very interesting study, not to geek out on science, but I do love science. Spent a lot of time in PubMed, so it's kind of like a friend. Check this chart out. Look at this. The first column is your menstrual phase. The second column, so that's when you're bleeding. This is when you're bleeding. This is after your bleed and you're building, your estrogen restores. This is when you ovulate. And these two are right before you actually shed. And what the colors mean, on one side are all the amino acids and the minerals that you need, and the red is the time when you need them the most. The blue is when the time you need them the least. So why are we taking supplements all month long, the same supplement over and over again? We should be cycling everything. We should be cycling more minerals, more aminos. Again, back at menstrual blood, when we shed these toxins out, we also shed electrolytes out. Why are we not teaching women to bring electrolytes back in? So what I noticed with all these women fasting was that they were getting brain fog and dizziness and rashes, and they had symptoms men didn't have. And that's because you need more minerals and amino acids. And I like to put them in my fasting window. So I walk around with jugs of water with lots of different weird things in them, but for sure, aminos and minerals are in them, and I drink them all in my fasting window. And if you're like, oh, the fasting window is really hard, put it in a wine glass, put it in a martini glass. It makes it a whole lot more fun. Okay, number 6, this is coming. And Eat Like a Girl, I got some fasted snacks for you. So yes, you can eat and you can drink things in your fasting window. So this was a study that I found a couple years back. I guess it was 2021 it was done. And basically they took 2 groups of people and they said, okay, let's have one group just fast to 13 hours and then stop. And let's have the other group go to 13 hours and then eat a fasted snack and go 3 hours more. And let's see if we can tell what the metabolic difference was. The group that went longer with the fasted snack lost more weight around the belly. I know everybody wants that. And the metabolic markers, hemoglobin A1C, cholesterol, improved more dramatically. This was done over a 30-day period. So I looked up what's in a fasted snack. This is what that study said. The fasted snack has to be under 200 calories. It has to be 18 grams of fat, or these are the upper end. So it has to be less than 18 grams of fat. It has to be less than 5 grams of protein, and it has to be less than 4 grams of carbohydrates. And you know who knows this? Is our good friend, Dr. Walter Longo. Anybody heard of Prolon, the fast mimicking fast? That's what he did. He just created 5 days of a fasted snack. So in the new book, I have recipes for you on fasted snacks that are pretty delicious. I'm very excited. I'm like, this is the whole reason to buy the book, is to learn what you can eat and drink in your fasting window. But here are some of the things that, MCT oil, yes. Keto cups are my favorite. I wish I owned some stock in that company. I do not, but I freaking love keto cups. Raw nut butter, avocado, bone broth is also, if you keep it under, you can't drink too much because you got to keep that protein under 18 grams in that total in that fasting window. If you're like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, don't worry. I've elaborated on the fasted snack and Eat Like a Girl, so it's coming to you.
It's actually women gathering together to build homes for mothers who don't have a roof over their head in Mexico. So Finding Sophia, thank you for what you're doing for women in the world. And thank you for those of you who are donating or volunteering and supporting this incredible nonprofit.
When you eat, eat. So when we go into this eating window, nourish yourself with food. This is why I have a whole cookbook coming for you, is to teach you how to nourish yourself with food. And so one of the things that happens when we fast is we lose our hunger. How many people? So we don't want to eat. You got to eat. You got to eat. The thyroid needs 1,200 calories a day. So if you consistently don't get 1,200 calories a day because you're not eating, you're going to destroy your thyroid. So very quickly, I've came up with two different styles of eating. One is called ketobiotic. One is called hormone feasting. And they are basically carb cycling. So you go low carb, high carb. Well, all those studies that came out, all the media blitzes that came out, oh, keto's bad for women. They forgot to say at certain points of your month, and for menopausal women, they have to cycle keto. So keto's great, and I'll show you here in a second, for fat burning. Hormone feasting is when we want to bring up our nutrients so we can make hormones. Hormones are made out of aminos and protein and minerals. You need food to be able to make hormones. And when we look at the carbohydrate, we got into this big crazy thing in our society about like carbs are bad. The only carbs that are bad are these carbs right here. So make sure when you're talking about a carb, you're not putting a man-made carb and a nature's carb, because nature made us some amazing carbs. So if you want to lose weight, if you want to get yourself insulin sensitive, if it's the first part of your cycle, if you're having hot flashes, if you hate the belly weight, if you're having trouble focusing, we go into ketobiotic more. Whereas if you are struggling with anxiety, you have bad PMS symptoms, you're spotting, your periods are heavy and they're clotting, you can't sleep, we go into hormone feasting more. That's as simple as I can make it. The other piece about food that I really want to emphasize is protein definitely is the hero macronutrient right now, and it's having its moment in the culture. So when we look at protein, whether you're plant-based or you're omnivore, that sounds a lot better, omnivore, you have to make sure you're getting 1 gram of protein for every pound of ideal body weight. Now, how many people have tried that? It's hard. So I'm trying to make things simple, so just make sure you're having 30 grams of protein at every single meal. In Eat Like a Girl, I list out all the plant-based proteins and how much they are and all the animal-based proteins, so you'll have a resource for that. Okay, second rule of this sugar burner system, or another rule, is fat with every meal. Every meal needs to have fat. Fat is like a brake for your blood sugar. So if you're hungry all the time, if you're finding that you can't get the results in a fasted state, make sure you're please, you're adding in the healthy fats. And by the way, just so we're all clear, I listed the healthy fats in Appendix B. If you didn't see them, everybody better go to Appendix B and fast like a girl after this. Okay, number 8, fasting is a lot easier in a community because of oxytocin. How many people did our water fast here with Hay House in January? Oh, you guys, we have some peeps to bring over to the fasting world, because I still get stopped by people on the street that did that collaboration project that my business family, I'm gonna call it, did it with Hay House. We came together and we had over 100,000 people do a 3-day water fast, and I led every single day. We will do it again. It was a huge hit. Fasting is a lot easier in community. Okay. Number 9, this is my favorite one, and I have a whole section on this in Eat Like a Girl because I should have said it more in Fast Like a Girl. There is a theory in science called N of 1. So when we look at a study, the N is how many people were in the study. So the study from last week that hit the news, there was close to, we looked at that, we're like, how many people were in the study? It was 20,000 people that they looked over a very long period of time. And by the way, one of the things that they had is they over like a 7-year period, they had them report twice and call in and talk about their symptoms and their timing of their food. And the people that were in the intermittent fasting group, by the way, 27% of them were smokers. So that could potentially be why there was a 91% higher risk of cardiovascular health. Sorry, I just had to go there. But here's the thing about N of 1. N of 1 means the only person that matters is you. So if you read my book and you're like, I love this, I don't love this, it doesn't work for me, then you do you. Pull what works. If you're on Instagram and you're like, oh, everybody's saying I should lift heavy weights, but God, when I go to the gym, I hate it, I'm injuring myself, then find a strategy that builds muscle that's unique to you. Stop trying to be like everybody else. When you're out at ladies' night and the ladies are like, I took this supplement, I went on Ozempic, I did all these things, and now I look like this. Be me. Don't be your friend, be you. I'm just giving you tools. If you're like, if you think I'm an idiot, no problem. Just stand for something and find your own path. And the last thing that I'm going to say here, last couple of things, is that I spend a lot of time thinking about hormones, if you can't tell. In fact, I love, when I left on Thursday to come here, my 24-year-old daughter was in the kitchen, and I was like, oh, I got to go back on a plane, and I got to go back to a hotel room. I was on a plane in hotel rooms every week last year, and it killed me. And so I was like, oh, I need some oxytocin. Ooh, there's one of my children. So I went into the kitchen, and she was making coffee on her way out the door to work, and I was like, I need some oxytocin. And she's 24, and so I was like, oh, this feels so good. It's like reattaching my arm. I'm like hugging one of my children. It's amazing. And she's like, you can just ask for a hug. You don't have to say you need oxytocin. That's how much I think about hormones, but this is what I have decided. I have decided that your hormones are always adapting to your environment. They are signal chemicals. So if you put yourself in a stressful environment, they shrink. If you put yourself in a loving environment, they will start to feel like it's safe to come out. When your body doesn't feel safe, those hormones go away. It cannot heal. And so what I've noticed is that I've done both individual coaching with people and I've done group coaching with people. And what I find is that when we gather women in a group, all the women start to heal because they feel supported, they feel safe. And you could say, well, yeah, it's like nice, but it actually creates an environment where women can heal. So a friend of mine said to me, like, don't we need to invite the men into this? And we do need to invite the men into it. But as women, we've been fighting against the patriarchal pace for so long that we just need a hot moment to gather around each other, give ourselves a big hug, and support each other, which is why we are natural nurturers. We are natural collaborators. We shouldn't be competing with another woman. We should be collaborating with another woman. We are half of the planet, and we need to come together. And so I end on this. I saw that Marianne Williamson is a friend of mine, and she posted this on her newsfeed, and I loved it. And it was, when one woman heals, the world heals. We are 50% of the population. If we just stand up and heal ourselves, start with yourself first, because we always want to go to other people, don't we? No, we're going to start with ourselves. Put your own oxygen mask on first. And you're going to take care of yourself first. And then everything that you learn through what I'm teaching or other people teaching, now you're going to go share that with other women. Maybe even the woman you don't like. Go find her and go teach her. And the mama bears are teaching their kids and their granddaughters, and we're rallying all the women together. You know what we can do, because we're 50% of the planet, is we can change the frequency of the planet if we come together.
Okay, where are my gals that are struggling with hormonal imbalance? Bloated, feeling like you're not making progress with weight loss? You need to add these foods in so that you can support better hormonal health. There is a lifestyle that estrogen wants you to live, and there is a lifestyle that progesterone wants you to live.